Thank you for being here today on Real Money. I'm your host, Lisa Chastain, and I have my guest with me in the studio. Woohoo! Amy Owens. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. I'm so glad you're here.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah. We're just going to lean in. We did some grounding before the show. I am on a mission, speaking to those of you on the show live, and then also to my YouTube community. I'm on a mission to tell the stories of money, really women in money, and help those. This is my belief, Amy, that there's one person, and if it is only one person in this show who needed to hear from you, then the show was a success. Because there's something about your story that's different from every other guest that I've ever had on the show, something about your life that is different than anybody else on this planet.
Poonam,
true, yeah. Poonam was on the show, Poonam Mather, who's someone that I really look up to a couple of weeks ago. And she said, there's 8 billion people on the planet and we need you.
That's
So
cool. Yeah.
Thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure.
I'm grateful. Yeah. Okay. So let's dig in.
Okay.
Amy Owens, you are an amazing designer.
Oh, thank you.
If you're listening and you want to go check her out right now, what's your website?
hiddengemdesigngroup.com.
Yeah. And friggin' awesome. The amount of time and attention and care that you put into putting together the most beautiful frameworks for people. These are my words, not yours. I'm sure you would call it something else, but designs, and then to see it come to fruition. If you're looking for someone to help you design your life, Amy is the gal.
Thank you.
So shameless plug at the front end of the show.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I know it is a labor of love, but you didn't come out of the womb thinking you were going to be an interior designer.
No. Well, I had thoughts of it maybe a little later than that, but not on that path until quite a bit later in life. It turns out. So
yeah, that's so cool. We were talking about that before the show. So will you, we already gave your shameless plug. I already gave the shameless plug, but will you introduce yourself in your own way?
My own way.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how about this for my own way? I am Amy, House of Owens, first of her kind, the designer of dreams, the builder of beauty, the maker of men, the shark of charcuterie, hostess with the mostest, the crazy keeper of crazy ass curls, and empress of empathy and warrior of winning, I think is how it goes. So that is my Oriki at your service.
I love it.
It's kind of ridiculous, but I got the idea, or I came to it through a book that I read at the end of the year, and it's from Lovey Jones. It's the Professional Troublemaker. It's a great book. You should read it. But basically, it's your badass way to introduce yourself like you're on the Game of Thrones.
I love that.
To put it another way, though, so my name is Amy Owens. I am the proud mom of 2 teenage boys and 2 fur babies. I have 2 boy puppies.
Bruce and Willis.
They're so fun. And then wife to the love of my life and my business partner, Michael. And you already mentioned the CEO of my own design company, Hidden Gem Design Group.
Yeah. That's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
I'm also a mama of teenage boys.
It's fun, right?
It is.
Adventure every day.
It really is. Yeah. And what a privilege we have of raising boys, and raising women too. But being a boy mom is definitely something special. And hairy and stinky and all the things. Yeah. I love the way that Lovey Jones Professional Troublemaker, or Oriki is what it's called. This is going to be my call to action for everyone on the show today. Do it. It is, because it perfectly encapsulates who you are, knowing you so well. And to see you light up sharing it also, that's pretty cool. So follow Lovey Jones and let's share our Orikis out into the world. I'm going to do mine too.
You should.
I'm going to. Okay.
So good experience kind of helps you think about things from a different perspective. Like, oh, what do I want to be known for? So
that's right. What do I want to be known for? You can put that on your grave. Right.
So cool.
That is cool. So Amy, you're here by no accident. I have a list of women on my hit list, Cashley and I call it, of women, great women who are on their own journeys, who are living unique, amazing lives. And you have a really, really powerful story to tell. And so I want to start the show out by starting with how you got to Vegas. Like, what was life like, you live in Las Vegas. What was life like before you got here? And you've had a lot of peaks and valleys. And so I'd love to just give a little framework about that before we jump into all the amazing goodness that you're into and learning through, we should say, as a shero, owner of your own company. So you grew up in the Midwest.
I did.
All the details I'd like for you to share, though. What was life like?
So I grew up in rural Wyoming. So, all three of us, no one out there. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere. So very humble beginnings. Just to kind of give you perspective, I went to kindergarten through 12th grade in the same building with 20. So my graduating class was 28 people, 13 of which I went to class with from kindergarten through 12th grade in that same building. So
wow.
Yeah, tiny, very, very small, which was fantastic. My childhood was amazing. I had tons of opportunity because in that kind of environment, if you don't do it, it doesn't happen. So, if you don't play volleyball, there's not a volleyball team. If you don't, fill in the blank. So I had a very rich childhood. My dad was a farmer. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for the first half of my childhood.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
2. I have a younger sister, younger brother.
Okay.
So, just the 3 of us. And then, my mom stayed at home for a while. Then she got her cosmetology license and went to school. But very, very humble, I would say. Kind of salt of the earth people. From a money perspective, we definitely were very frugal. It's a lifestyle where you make everything work. You're not throwing away a lot of things, you're reusing, you're being resourceful in all the ways to make life happen. And
living off the land, literally, right?
It's a tough lifestyle for sure.
What was tough about it?
Well, probably harder on my dad than anyone, but the physical output that you have to actually have a working farm that is successful and is profitable and all those things. It's a lot of early mornings. We were definitely waking up before school hours in advance, doing chores, doing all of that stuff before getting on the bus and riding the bus for an hour and going to school. And anyway, as a kid, it seemed intense, but as I look back now, it was so fun and lots of experiences that other people will likely never get to have. So
was it a cattle farm? What kind of farm?
Yeah. So we grew a lot of crops, but we grew hay, barley, corn. He even did some pinto beans and sunflowers. Kids, you kind of have to rotate crops based on the soil and whatnot. But we also had all the animals. So we had cattle and horses and sheep and pigs and lots of bum lambs, which I fondly remember feeding 5 times a day at all kinds of hours because they didn't have moms. So somebody had to go feed them. So there was the night shift and morning shift and all the things. But yeah, we had them all.
That's really cool.
Menagerie out there. So
that's really cool. Are your parents still on the farm?
They are not. They actually, I think my dad kind of had a midlife crisis when I look back at it now. He decided to get out of farming. I think physically knew it just is exhausting work and wanted to change. And so he retired in his early 50s. They sold everything and then bought apartment complexes and then bought duplexes and then bought some real estate. And that is what they do now. They just let all of that work for them and they're doing just fine.
That's cool. And then did they leave? I was going to say, did they leave Wyoming?
Yeah, my sister's still there, but my parents are in Texas. And so is my brother. He's in Texas too.
Yeah.
So.
As a little girl, we had another, I've had a handful of clients that have lived in smaller towns, and one, Aaliyah, she grew up in Alaska, a really small world. And she said she had this experience of looking out onto the ocean, being like, what is more for my life? Did you accept life as it was or did you have dreams as a little girl of life being different? I think of Kelly Clarkson's songs, right? There's gotta be something more. Yeah.
Yes and no. So yes, in that I thankfully had the opportunity to do some traveling. They got us involved in a lot of stuff. So I knew that there was more out there, but I was definitely a product of my environment in that you only know what you know. You can only really kind of see so far out and imagine, certain things.
Mhm.
And the career I'm in now was outside of that imagination. So I knew, even at, gosh, I remember, so when I mentioned my mom going to cosmetology school, she had a project where they had to create their salon, and do
Yeah.
mood boards and all of that. I'm sorry, Mom, I'm calling you out, but she did not do it. I totally did that for her. And that was probably, I don't know, 7th grade, 6th grade, something like that. And I mean, I knew even through high school, every test I took, everything just kept saying you should be an interior designer. But
Really?
oh yeah, like aptitude tests and all of those things, like top 3 every time. But I'm in rural Wyoming. It's a luxury service that is so far from the reality. Not that I really anticipated living there forever, but I could not imagine even living in a world where people were paying for that service, or that it would be a logical next step for me. And I am very practical, and that's just kind of part of my
You are.
And so I did not pursue that
Gotcha.
straight out the gate.
Okay. So you learn to be resourceful living on the farm. Farmers, the history of farmers in America, and it would make sense with your parents over the last 3 decades that they just small farmers just keep getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And really, it is really hard to make a living as a farmer, not a part of a big farming conglomerate anymore. So I'm not surprised to hear that your father did that. At what age did you realize that you were going to leave Wyoming? Did kids graduate and leave the state to go to college, or what was your journey?
That was my journey, although a little slower.
Okay.
Excuse me. It was not. I stayed in Wyoming for the first 2 years of college because I had full ride scholarships.
Okay.
And that just made sense. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was paid to play my trombone in a
Yeah.
And so that's what I did, but
Okay.
I really didn't know what I wanted to do still. I had always known that I wanted to go to college, or that it wasn't an option. Like that was just the path. My sister, my brother, we all did. I don't remember ever having the conversation of like, it's optional. It was just like expected.
Where did you go to college?
Originally in Wyoming. And then once I figured out that was not the answer and did not hold the key to the future, I transferred to UNLV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how I landed in Vegas. Yep.
You never leave Las Vegas.
Exactly. 100%. 20 plus years later. I moved here in 1998.
I think you told me this, but did you come out here for hotel, which is like every kid from out of state comes to UNLV for hotel?
100%. I worked at a hotel over the summer in college, and I was like, oh yeah, hospitality. That seems like a really good choice for me.
Nah. Okay. So you came out to UNLV, and what was college life like? So in 98, I was at UNLV in 98. We were there at the same time. Yeah. I partied a lot in college. Yeah. I did too. Yeah. So I did that. You did that. And then what was life like through college? You're on your own, right? So your your family's still in Wyoming at that time. You came out by yourself. How did you navigate that financially and otherwise?
Right. I have always had a job. I think I started working when I was 14. And so I got a job within a few weeks of being here. And then I wanted to be in hospitality. So I kept searching for hospitality jobs. And so I actually got one at Caesars Entertainment on August 16th, 1998.
Not surprised that you know that.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me that I was there for 16 years, which is insane, but yeah, so college, I supported myself. I did not have scholarships at this point for school, so I was paying for school, supporting myself. I definitely come from the world of if I don't do it, it doesn't get done. So I've always had a pretty good work ethic, and so I just figured it out.
Gotcha.
Made stuff work for me.
Gotcha. And so you were working at Caesars for 16 years. So through your 20s into your 30s, you're at Caesars. And you got married somewhere along the way.
I did. I met my now ex-husband in college. We were in accounting class together. Yeah. And so we got married. the year after we graduated. So we graduated in 2000. I hate that I'm putting all these dates out here. 2000 and I graduated 2000, got married in 2001.
Okay.
So
Cool.
yeah.
And what was life like as a newlywed?
You know, it was a bit of a challenge for us. There's a lot of, you mentioned peaks and valleys. We definitely had that. My ex-husband was a great guy, but troubled by addiction and alcoholism. So that definitely plagued our marriage a lot and was really a challenge through the first decade plus of our marriage. We ultimately were married for 18 years. So struggle.
Yeah.
We ended, we kind of had a lot of, we had financial difficulty.
As do, my
Yeah.
ex-husband also, like, it was hard to hold on to money. That's a
Yes.
common experience with people who are in addiction.
Yeah.
And in Vegas, it's a common experience in general, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
It was, I thought it was the lifestyle. We were college kids when we met. And so I thought, oh, it's just college and we just haven't gotten out of that demographic and we're still just having a fun, good time.
Mhm.
And we didn't have kids yet. But it just never really changed.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of fighting and, just struggling through that process of, he was able to keep a job somewhat for a long time, but eventually that no longer was an option either. Or he
Didn't seem like one.
Yeah, he chose not to work.
So you're working at Caesars.
Yeah.
He's not working.
Yes.
You have 2 boys.
So at this point, by then, we had both boys. They're probably I don't know, 10-ish, 10 and 11. My kids are only 18 months apart, so they're close. And his luck kind of ran out, and he ended up losing his job, and just made a choice really not to go back, or that's how it felt on my end.
Yep.
He did not. Actually, I guess they were not 10 and 12. They were more like 5 and 6.
A lot younger.
Yeah, they were younger. And so that put all that weight on my shoulders of now the full household. We had actually, so I'm trying to think of chronologically, we had decided to keep our first house when we bought our second house, and the intention was to rent it out and, have that be passive income for us. Which did not end up working out for us in 2008 with all that disaster. We ended up losing the house. And so I had been trying to pay our stuff. Like there was just a lot of things and only my salary, and as a young mom, and it was intense.
Intense is a good word.
We'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Intense. And so, I don't know, we don't have to like dive in like to the deepest part of this, but at what point did you know the marriage was over? So, and the reason I ask this is that 1, I'm nosy, but 2, our listeners, right? There's someone, I went through that, got married at 25, met my husband when I was 22, and realized at some point that it wasn't going to change. And it took me years. I really held on to the thought that it was going to get better. Divorce is not a thing in my family. It wasn't a conversation. I'd go to my parents really upset, and my mom would tell me, "You'll get through it."
Figured out.
Is that what happened?
Yep. My parents have been married for 47 years. So,
yeah.
And my grandparents, 80 something, like it's just been kind of a expected thing. Although I will say they did come around to being very supportive, and more after I shared what was really happening. They were oblivious to it. So once they were aware, it wasn't like they were like, "Oh, you need to stay married for the sake of marriage." They were like, "Oh, okay, we get it." So, but kind of the tipping point for me, living with an alcoholic, there are so many fights and so many extreme circumstances because it's all elevated by alcohol, and that I can't really pinpoint it to a specific one. But at some point I realized that I was living for him and for us, And he was not, and he was never going to. He was always going to live for himself, and he was getting all he wanted in the world and was happy and seemed like the right choice. And I realized that if I wanted to have the life that I wanted, that I had to start living for myself. And
Yeah.
that as much as I wanted him to get better, I could not will him or beg him or plead or just, I couldn't. I tried every way I could have possibly imagined to get him to come along on the ride, and he wasn't going to.
No.
And it's a tough pill to swallow, but I will say once I did and realized that that future still could happen for me and that I just had to choose it, it was pretty invigorating and exciting, and I'm thrilled that I made the decision I did.
Yeah. And how long ago was that?
2016 is when I decided to make that choice. Decided in 2016, separated 2017, early 2017, and then the divorce. Oh my God, it took forever. I felt like I actually went through in 2018. So.
Same, Amy.
Really? Like same year?
Yes.
That's so
yes.
weird. How do we do that?
I don't know. I don't know. And wasn't
time. It was a little focused. I don't know about you, but
let's do a little reflection on that, because I know that there's someone listening to this who's in the middle of the storm, and I know what it was like for me. And I don't want to make any assumptions of what it was like for you, but I know for me, it was probably one of the darkest times of my life.
100%. It was just self-doubt. And I mean, I have, young kids at this point. They're 10 and 11 and they need their dad. And, am I doing the right thing? And just soul searching constantly of like, God, what, I'm tearing up this little happy family of 4. To everybody who has ever seen us, they, no one knows the real stories. I'm changing their life. That, my dream of this, mom, dad, 2 boys situation, and what I expected their life to be like, my life to be like I'm choosing to flip the table.
Yeah.
And the amount of tears and the nerves and it was physically demanding. Like I lost a ton of hair. I had lost weight, but I was fanatically going to the gym at that point. I think it was kind of a coping mechanism.
Totally.
Of like, it was time that could be away from the house with a dedicated reason that energetically got a lot of this like anxious energy out, but also was just sort of something for me, which I needed. And, but just so many, it was dark. It was hard, mentally, emotionally, physically, all of it.
All of it.
Really hard.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Here you are today.
Yeah.
That was a big change and a big opportunity, and all the things. We can reframe it into a million lessons. What did you learn about yourself reflecting on your divorce? And there's a lot more. I mean, we have a whole another half of a show. We're going to talk about all the amazing stuff you're up to. And this is just one turning point, not the only turning point you've had. Yeah. But what did you learn about yourself?
That I can do hard things, and that I figure shit out, and that if it's meant to be, that I will make it happen. And there's a whole lot of me in this situation that had not been ever in my life before. I think I have primarily been a people pleaser my whole life. I still am. I want people to like me. Yeah, I am that person. But I realized at this point that I can't do it for everybody else. I have to do it for me. So I kind of became selfish. I don't want to say that out loud, but
it's not selfish. It's not selfish.
Well, no, not in the traditional way, maybe, but
you're right.
It feels, for me, it was a very awkward, it's not the right word. It was just a complete 360 of a choice for me. Like I had always just been like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is someone told me I should do this, or this is the expectation, the societal norm, the whatever, fill the blank. That's what I did. I was definitely stood upon. I'm going to say And I kind of decided maybe that was enough. So
Good for you.
Yeah.
That was a wake up call.
it was,
Yeah.
for sure.
You were making, I don't want to say great money, but what kind of, do you mind sharing salary range at that time you were making at Caesars?
Caesars, I was probably up in about, I don't know, 65
Okay.
or so.
Yeah.
I was, I think, or yeah, that's about where I topped out at Caesars, which looking back, thanks Caesars. I had been there for 16 years. I had, I don't know, 10 positions. I was corporate HR manager, the executive recruiter at one point, and basically because you're in-house, they know how much you make, and as they promote you, they're like, oh, she'll take another $1,000 to do this way harder job. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Corporate America.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Making
yeah.
enough though to be a single mom.
Yeah, I did. I was.
Did you
Not-
stay at Caesars?
No.
Yeah.
by
So
the
what
time
happened?
So from Caesars, I got an opportunity to go to the Brooklyn Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
which is fun on the Strip. I was their director of HR, and then Zappos came knocking. So I had an opportunity to join their team. I don't know how much you know about Zappos and their crazy culture at the time, but they didn't really have roles. Like we're kind
It
of
was the holacracy.
It's holacracy. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So my general role was firing people initially, which is not really in alignment with who I am, but that's what I did. And then I moved into leave administration, which was
hard.
really difficult and challenging, and energetically took a lot out of me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did that for 5 years. I was with Zappos before I ended up at I know, 5 years. I'm old.
You are not old. You are in your prime.
Okay, perfect. But yeah, I was there for 5 years.
Wow. After Brooklyn Bowl.
Yeah.
What were the whispers? So you're no longer in corporate America. You left Zappos during the pandemic, not by choice. Zappos did what a lot of companies did during the pandemic and downsized. And you said, I'm going to start a company.
I did. Yeah.
What were the whispers? So Oprah calls these whispers, and we all have them. There's whispers along the way in our lives. So you made a big leap. You took a leap of faith on yourself. You got a divorce, and then you moved to Brooklyn Bowl, and then you moved to Zappos. At any point along the way, were you thinking, this is not where I'm supposed to be?
I continually had moments of like, this is bringing me no joy. I had the Sunday scaries, right? Where you dread going to work on Sundays. The actual people that I was dealing with and working with, I loved, and those were great. But it was the work that I did brought me absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I enjoyed helping people. That was rewarding, but it did not get me out of bed in the morning. And when I would think about the idea of doing this for another 20 years, like it made me want to throw up of just, this is terrible. Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Did you know you wanted to be an interior designer?
I did. So actually to facilitate the divorce and help me financially get out of the house, I had gotten my real estate license because I felt like that could be a way I could make some quick money, get myself set up. And so I did, because I know I love houses. I've always loved houses. I love real estate. I love all the things. And so it seemed like a good, like low boundary entry to be able to get into the whole world and also have some additional income. But it didn't quite scratch the itch that I thought it would. So I still have my license, still am a realtor, but it was not really what I dreamt of, which was interior design.
Gotcha. I started this show and my brand because I felt like there was something missing in the money industry. And I have spent a lot of time over the last month or two listening to other financial podcasts, listening to other financial experts, consuming information from other experts. And what I will say is that there's a lot of information out there. And I value that. And for me, what was missing for me was this stuff. The real stuff, the behind the scenes, behind the information. How are people really navigating life? Because externally we can appear so successful,
Right.
and we are, right? And there's a story on how we get there. We don't just wake up that way, I believe.
Yeah.
So thank
For
you
sure.
for coming onto the show today.
My pleasure.
It's the real deal. It's the
Absolutely.
real shit, right?
Right. Yeah.
You have a
story.
beautiful new website that you just launched.
I do.
You are so talented, and I know you're making a difference for families in Las Vegas. And you're finally at a point where you're living your passion.
Mhm.
You had these like the universe is like interior designer, interior designer, interior designer. Like not yet,
Mhm.
not yet, not yet.
Right.
And then boom, the pandemic happens, and you
Yeah.
did with what so many women in the pandemic did,
Mhm.
and you started your own company.
I did.
Holy friggin' shit.
Literally. Like
Holy shit.
Mhm.
And not being the most, like, I'm a huge risk taker. You're
I'm
not.
not.
So you had to make a decision there. And through the divorce, you were 50-50 time with your kids.
I was, yeah.
So on the other side of the divorce, you have financial obligations. I know you met Mr. Mike. Hi, Mike. At some point, we're going to talk about that. But you're jobless. You have 2 boys, and you're paying child support.
Yeah, a lot of child support, as it turns out. So I had a lot of financial obligations and concerns going from. At this point, thankfully, Zappos paid me a bit more than Caesars did. And, it's 20 plus years in a career that you'd built up. So my salary was pretty decent. And so when we went through the divorce, that meant, I mentioned he was unwilling to work. And unfortunately, the court does not really see it that way. They
Yeah.
don't see it as a choice. It's just that he's not. And therefore, in order for him to be able to live the same lifestyle, I should support him. More, I don't know. I just want to go down that rabbit hole, but yeah. So I was paying him almost $1,200 a month in child support, which on top of now supporting myself in my own house and to be jobless was definitely an oh shit kind of moment. But so Zappos did a mass layoff. Basically, there was several hundred of us at the same time.
Like a lot of companies did. I had heard that like a lot of companies just put everybody on a Zoom call and let them go. No,
not exactly.
Okay.
We had individual conversations, but
Okay.
it was over the span of like a day or 2 days, which is just gut wrenching and terrible to experience. So,
okay.
Because you're just kind of waiting for your time. I had a bit of a head start because I was in HR, so I knew things were coming. I didn't know what that looked like for me, but because I did have a bit of the head start, and then they actually asked me to stay after. So they gave us the option to choose by a certain day for what we wanted to do. And then they offered to have me stay for a little bit longer. So I used that time to really try to put away everything I possibly could, knowing that this was going to be the end of my HR career.
Were you living at the downtown house at the time?
No, not yet.
Okay.
No. So this was a rental house that I had gotten when I moved out from the divorce. I was still in that house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're in a rental house, single still? Okay.
Yeah.
Got shared custody with the boys. Did you get a severance?
I did.
Okay. And then what? Was this like March or April? Like when in 2020 was this?
Nope. It was late. It was November.
Okay.
Is when my last day was November 15th, 2020.
That's my birthday.
Hey, it was a day of put this behind me.
Yeah.
It was a good day.
Okay. So you left?
Yep. So I left.
Did you know then you were going to start your own company?
I did.
You started to put
I started putting all the pieces together. Probably September is when they gave us the heads up, and then they asked me to stay longer. And so during that time frame, I had started assembling kind of what I was envisioning and, buying software and trying to figure out like, okay, how do I even get in front of people and what do I need and all those things.
And you were selling real estate at the time.
I was. Yep. I've had my license since 2016, but it had always been a side hustle. And so was not really super active. And in fact, in 2020, the market
Went crazy.
Yeah, topsy-turvy, nuts. Nobody knew what to expect. And so it had definitely quieted and was not something that I could really count on financially. It was hopeful, but not consistent for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Amy, which is, kind of a loaded question, but what did you know about business at the time?
Not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, so I have a business degree. That's hospitality is a administration, business, whatever. I've been in corporate HR at this point for 20 years. I felt like I had a general understanding of business and, like to think that I'm smart enough and could
You
figure it out
absolutely
and
are.
all of those things, but really, no. I
Mhm.
mean, like you're starting from scratch all over again. And, I definitely had some base knowledge and things that I could take into it, but I felt like every single day was a learning moment, time and time and time and time again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the first year in business
Okay.
during the pandemic. What was life like? You had your squirrel, so you like to save. So on
Mhm.
in the money personalities, Amy's a cheap chip. So to all of you who are
Hello,
cheap
cheap
chips,
Yeah. Little frugalistas. Hello.
frugal.
Yeah.
And also having money is a safe deal. You feel safe when
Yes.
you have money. Not having money does not feel safe for you. And in the
Yes.
world of new business ownership, there's money coming in, but not consistently. What was that first year like for you? That was
Well,
like 2021.
yes, 2021. So, it was an interesting time. So to back up just a tiny bit,
Yeah.
I bought a house in 2020, July of 2020, and then found out my position was eliminated in September 2020. And then, yeah. So I now have a mortgage and, all the things.
Mortgage, 2 kids, child support, right? No one's supporting you. That's a lot.
Yeah, was. Oh, no, I forget where your question was going. Oops.
How'd you navigate the first year? But
Yeah.
I think you were, that's a lot of financial obligations.
Yes, exactly. I was having all of that on top of my head, but knowing that I wanted to make this work. This is probably a good time to introduce my now husband, Michael. We actually ended up getting married in October of 2020, who has been the support and the way that we really did get through all of 2021. But from a business perspective, I struggled incredibly hard in charging the right amount, as it turns out. I thought that the way to approach it would be to charge really low so that people would want to take the opportunity. And then I would slowly, build my business and increase my prices, which to some degree is what I did, but that is not how you should do it. It was an extremely painful first year, just to provide perspective for anyone who might be considering making this kind of leap and have some real expectations. And when I say that I have good work ethic, I mean, I work from morning till night, and I'm not condoning that or encouraging it, but like
Working hard is not a
yes,
problem for
it
you.
is not
No.
hard for me. I do it without meaning to. And I still made 15,800 and something in my first year. And that's with real estate and interior design. So
Yeah, you're not alone. I didn't make
Yeah.
any money my first 3 years in business.
really
I was negative because I was pumping so much into my
it.
business. I
Yeah.
was negative, right?
Thank goodness this is a low overhead business.
Yeah.
I would have drowned. I would have had
Mhm.
to probably throw in the towel, but there was a glimmer.
Yeah. Well, and Mike has been
Mhm.
working this whole time also. So you two meet,
Yeah.
you two get married.
Mhm.
He is a doll.
He
Mike, if you're
is
listening, I love
incredible.
you. You're amazing.
I do too.
So you're learning some new things in relationship
Mhm.
at that time too.
Yeah.
Just
Like
overhauling things.
all the things.
Yeah.
I, talk about a 360, not only in my work life of not being someone's employee, I'm now calling all the shots, but in my home life to be in a relationship that is based in love and support and just I can't even really wrap my head around how the difference, like it was just an incredible turn for me. And it's probably the only reason that I felt comfortable making that leap is, the people that are around you, which we're about to get to the point where we met here in a little bit, which is helpful also, but the people that are around you, the support systems that you have, especially in times of change like that, could not be more important or more crucial.
Who was your support system, Mike? Who else? Who else stood by you during those transitional times?
My parents, it was really, coming in strong for me. They were helpful actually from a financial standpoint, as it turns out. But also just, I think they realized, through the divorce and whatnot, that I needed extra love and attention and support, and they were more than happy to give it. Even my kids, actually, they're boys and
and this is their language.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Sure. Yeah. Barely look up from TikTok, a nod, but in ways that they maybe weren't even intending. I realized that I was on the right path and doing the right things, and helping them to see the direction you should go in life. And so
I'm sure they're proud of you.
Good feeling, like I am doing the right thing, even if it means that mom has to DoorDash tonight. Like that was the real thing. We, about the time we bought the house, well, it was like that whole 2021 was just rough. And at one point we were like, well, if if we're going to pay the bills this month, so both Mike and I were DoorDashing in the evenings and, whatever we need to do to make it happen. And that's why one of many of his million amazing traits, but made it work.
He does. You do too. Yeah. So coming around the turn in 2021, just want to acknowledge you. Thanks. Seriously, acknowledge you for staying the course, for not giving up, for also being in a responsible conversation about the responsibilities that you have. Amy, if you're looking to hire a designer, let's plug. Amy will do the right thing. Yeah. That's a part of who you are. You do the right thing. And it wasn't easy. And you had to learn some different ways of being, right? But then in 2021, you're starting your company. Why did you decide to call it Hidden Gem?
Because that's really what lights me up. Like the idea of finding something that is not perfect on the outside and doesn't have all the things that you want, and then making it into exactly what you need and what you want and what you would love. So
you do that masterfully.
Thank you.
Yeah. You kind of did that with your life, right? I mean, in some ways.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but I like that.
Yeah. And so we met, I think it was through a friend. Someone had introduced us.
Was the friend. Andrea.
Andrea. Hi. Hi, Andrea. Love you.
Hello.
So we had met, and you were still like, you have been and were committed to being successful in your business. Of course, all business owners, every business owner I know, and no matter how long you're in business, it's like, man, I should just really go get a job. Yeah. I think that often. And then I laugh and then I'm like, okay, fine, let me go back to work.
Right.
But you've been very committed to this. And what were some of the things that you had to shift, or things that you've like really important things for our listener too, like in that second year, going in now your second year of business? What are the things that you did to shift? Because you didn't make $15,000 again last year.
I did not, thankfully. Yes. One of the big things I had to do was realize that I needed help. Like I really thought that from my whole previous experience in life that if it was meant to be, it was going to be me, right? I'm going to make it happen.
I can see that theme, that you're going to take care of it. You're going to do it.
I'm just self-sufficient enough to make things work for myself.
Yeah.
And that was my upbringing and all the things. But that'll only get you so far. And I think had I not reached out for help from you and, even Mike, and, I would not be anywhere near where I'm at today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So asking for help.
I had to ask for help. I had to be comfortable with sharing my story and actually putting it out there, because all this time I'm, being what I was expected to be. And from the outside looking in, I think I put on a show that was a lot different than what our financial situation was in reality. So I had to be a little more vulnerable, and that was part of asking for help and just like letting people in. Even with Mike, like just letting him do things in the business. I'm kind of a control freak. It surprises no one who's near me at all, but realize that also is not always the answer.
Yeah. So letting go of control doesn't mean not being responsible.
Very true.
Right. You work hard. I know that in that second year of just knowing you. So we met in, I want to say, October of 2021, but you were all in. You were all in. You're like, just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And in business, we need people who are at that, that next level or above of us to say, hey, I know some things. I've done some things. Do this. Yeah. And you've always done that. Go do this. And you're like, I really don't want to. Go do this. No, I don't want to. But you have. And as a result, you've created so much in this last year.
Yeah.
So much. What are some of the things that you're looking back on that you're really proud of?
Well, charge what I'm worth.
Yes.
That was huge. That was probably one of the biggest breakthroughs for me of not only charging what I'm worth, but also not putting my money filter on everyone else. Of like, I'm a cheap chip. I want to pay the least possible on all things, but not everyone else operates that way. Nor do I know their money story. I like to project like, oh, well, but she's a single mom. Yeah, but she makes $1 million a year. So maybe this is not your problem, kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
So those were big changes for me. Something else that I'm proud of, investing in the business. That was hard. People are probably like, oh, you gotta be kidding. But no, it was parting with the money. As she said, I'm a squirrel. Like, I like to save. Parting with money to reinvest in the business will make sense when I say it out loud right now. It's in reality was very hard for me to actually let it go.
Yeah.
You're not in your head. You remember it was.
Yeah.
I remember Mike, I was working off a old HP laptop that like took 7 months to upload anything. It was terrible. And like he ultimately just went and bought me a computer because like, I'm just not going to do it.
And you're a designer. You need like designing software.
I did. Yeah. It was ridiculous. I was like, piecing everything together and wasting so much time. And instantly it was like, oh,
look how much faster I can do things.
I could have done twice as much work in half the time. So that's just one of many investments that I've made along the way that I'm proud that I'm at the point where I can do it. And that actually brings us to the rebranding that we just did, with the new website and all of that. I feel sort of like the launch party that we never got to have. Right. As thankfully we're been in business long enough and are doing well enough that we can afford to do it and need to do it. And it's really pretty exciting.
It's beautiful.
So, yeah.
Beautifully done.
Thank you.
We have a minute left.
No way.
I know. It flew by.
Okay.
So to recap, Amy, you have been on this journey, the business ownership journey for the last couple of years. And not only have you invested in the business, but you've continued to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
So much so that your hubby was also inspired to start his own company and which is called At Your Disposal. And that the two of you are now really embracing this entrepreneurial journey together. And that is friggin' awesome.
It is.
I've seen you both take so many risks and stretch. And as a result, you're living your life by design. You guys are doing it.
We are.
You're doing it. And just with like 30 seconds left, what's the one thing you have on your heart to share with our listeners today?
If you think that entrepreneurship and creating your own company is a possible path for you and you've been thinking about it, don't just dip your toe in, do it. Because I stayed on the sidelines for a long time of kind of half-assing things. And it really wasn't until I invested and really jumped in full steam that things started happening for me. And the climb is 100% worth it when you get to the top. So, and I mean, I'm still climbing.
Yeah.
We're still going, but I'm just saying it's going to be worth it. And I wouldn't change it for anything. It's been great.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right. What's your website one more time?
hiddengemdesigngroup.com.
There's a great quiz on there. You can find out your own design aesthetic. I've taken it. I'm sure my husband's is not the same as mine. Marriage counseling is part of, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Thank you everyone for listening today. Amy, thank you for your heartfelt message today. Thank you for listening to Real Money. You can catch us next week with a brand new guest right here, same time, Monday mornings, 10 a.m. And keep it real. Let's keep it real and keep talking.
Love it.
See you then.
Thanks.